Busso. I'm not Amy Kirk. He's rang me last night and said he's got COVID, so I've stepped in.
They're still using those excuses.
HVP, well, we own about 245,000 hectares of land in the state, and a lot of that is plantations, is some native forest. We produce lots of timber, and we are really keen on producing good quality saw log. Why does that matter for deer? Well, deer actually spoil trees. They harm the base of the tree, and we'll go into that in a bit more detail, but that's really where we've got skin in the game. Where do we go? So these blue areas here in Gippsland, in the northern region and out to the west, they're all the plantations that we have. And in the northern region, the Shelley Plantations, this one up here, and that's where I work, and Myrtleford and Bright, we've got plantations there, down around Vanilla. So the total area in the northern region is 68,500 hectares, and we supply, I don't know, 890,000 units, 24,000 truckloads of wood each year. Yeah, sorry. Sorry, Tony. I do occasionally wake up with the truck coming up. So, very sorry about it. But on a good note, the timber that we supply to the mills gets turned into houses and other things, so hopefully you appreciate that. These are some of our people. We've got 30 direct employees in the northern region, 60 people in harvesting, contract harvesting. Haulage is another 60 in truck driving and so forth. Quarries and roads, nearly 40 people. Silviculture, that's where I work. Regrowing the forest, and that's between 46 and 77. The reason why that varies a lot is over the summertime we employ some summer crew people. So just in the Shelley Plantation we put on another 5 or 6 people every summer. And across the northern region, that's an opportunity for we take on young people that are just out of school, or some people that are, and it's just an opportunity for us to show other people the business, and it's a good training ground for them. So we have a lot of deer damage, and it's really, in the last 10 years, I suppose, I've really noticed the increase in the amount of damage I've been noticing on the trees, particularly the younger trees. So not the really small ones that have just been planted. They get missed in amongst the grasses and stuff. Once the trees get up about this sort of size, they get a bit of stiffness in their stem, and that's where trees get rubbed by deer antlers, and essentially they get ring barked, or they have some significant damage on their stem, and that devalues the log long term. So what we're doing about it, we actually employ contract shooters to come up and harvest deer off our estate, and that's across not just Shelley. We've got 3 of 5 of the shooters up at Shelley here today. Thanks for coming. Across Noah, Ovens, all those areas, we have contract shooters as well. What other things we're doing? We're quite interested in quantifying the value, or the value loss that deer inflict on our plantation trees. So we've been going through doing deer damage assessments, and you know it's quite significant the value loss that we've been noticing, and it's so we've been doing this deer damage assessment on 5-year-old trees. They were chosen because that's roughly when they get big enough and the bark starts to get thick enough, and maybe the blackberries get wild enough that they don't get in there as easily to the base of the tree. So we're hoping that once the tree's above 8 years old, 5 years old, you know, they're not experiencing a lot more damage. So we put these plots in, and we used the data, and we've basically come up with a way of assessing the trees. So essentially we've split the tree, imagine it into quadrants. So if it was damaged just on one quadrant, which is like a quarter of the circumference, that's damage. And then this one here obviously is 100% damaged all the way around, and that's basically going to sprout from down below the damaged area here, or that part there is dead. So that's, you know, that's bark stripping based on the deer rubbing off the bark with their fingers. And you do see occasionally this happening. You get the top's just broken off really, and it's regrown from the base. So we measure the height of the damage and also the amount around the circumference of the tree. I'll just click through these and just show. So we've gone through, and this data's not familiar to me, so I haven't seen it.
You can make witness.
Yeah. So the total number of trees not damaged, so the northern regions, it's all pretty similar, you know, plus or minus a few percent really.
That's a big percentage though, like
Yeah, it is.
30 trees.
Third of the trees are damaged.
Have you broken that down into what species and what size of trees? Like what species of deer prefer what size of trees? Because
No, we haven't got to that analysis yet, but we're going to start putting out a few trail cams and try and get to that.
yeah, because to really prevent what you're seeing, you need to know that information.
We absolutely do need to know that. So you're right. We want to get more data. We want to film damage occurring and finding out what the split is between the different deer species and which ones we can attribute to being the main culprits, if we can. But it might be all of them. I don't know.
I suspect that it's a fallow prefer a certain size tree,
Could be.
and
Yeah.
Samba prefer a different size tree. That's just my gut feel on what I see anecdotally in the bush.
In the bush. Yeah.
Yep.
Wouldn't surprise me, but yeah, we want to start collecting a bit more of this data so we can focus. Maybe it might focus our efforts more effectively on where we put our shooting efforts in. But right now, we're basically asking our deer control shooting team to focus on trees that are from 1 year old up to 4 year old initially. Once the trees get too high, though, the deer obviously hiding amongst the trees. So it's a bit of a pointless task.
What's your gut feel, Andrew, and what that's costing, like 31% loss?
It's significant.
It'll be
It's across the estate. It's in the millions of dollars.
Yes,
I don't have the data to say specifically how many millions, but it's in the millions. Yeah. So if you cut open a tree and have a look at what's happened, you can see in here, this part of the tree, when it was young, was damaged. So there was bark missing there, and it's sort of regrown around that wound and closed over, but the damage is still inside that wood. And the same happened here. So you can count back the rings 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 years ago, and it's taken a few years to close over. So,
So that really just become fault, does it?
yeah, that piece of the log will have a damage, yeah. And if the harvesting people, when they see it, they might be able to cut it out. But yeah, if it's closed over like this here, the harvesting guy inside the cab of the harvesting machine won't necessarily see that. So you might say, well, all butt logs will have maybe 30% of butt logs are going to be damaged, and we'll just have to take a hit on the drop in price of the sawmill might start saying, well, we're finding 30% of our logs, of your butt logs are damaged. We can't keep paying the premium.
So and I know we're getting off deer topic and we're talking about it. So does the rest of the tree become all right? Or?
Yeah. So once this might be at 1 metre high.
Yep.
Once that's up here, it's right outside the reach of the deer. So that's no longer a damage point. It's above. Yeah. So it's really the butt log where we get most of our volume though. So it's the biggest part of the tree. So we're wanting to know more answers to some of these questions. So we're in the process of collecting more data, refining what we know about the problem, and that's essentially watch this space. We're in the process of collecting and analysing this issue. What we're doing. We're doing lots of things. One of the things that I really do want to focus on for this meeting though is HVP are really keen to collaborate and work with groups like yourselves, farmers that are bordering on us, because if we can focus efforts together, it makes it a lot more effective. So we have a similar approach when it comes to weed management. If I know there's a farmer wanting to control a particular weed on the boundary with the plantation, all he needs to do is give us a call and we'll be doing the same on our side of the fence. So it's the same, if we have a collaborative approach to controlling deer in this landscape, I'm all for it. So yeah, if you've got any issues, if you know farmers that need help in that regard, or parks, reserves, Pheasant Creek is in my patch. So yeah, it's all about team effort. Thank you. Any questions?
Yeah, I've got one. Do you reckon that deer go to the pines more than the native forests, or?
I've seen damage on native trees as well.
Yeah. But do you reckon they'll concentrate more on the pines and
well, if you're asking me, I spend a lot more time in the plantation, so my answer is going to be biased, and I say yes, I see a lot of damage. If you ask somebody from the state forest, they might give you a totally different answer. I have seen quite a bit of damage on young eucalypts and wattles as well. It's not just restricted to pine.
I just noticed that there's a lot of deer hanging around Shelley and that all the time.
There is.
I was just wondering why, what's the attraction of the pines?
There's been it's been a no hunting zone for a long time, so that's why we haven't been allowed to shoot it. It gets poached every other night, but I mean that's.
They're pretty clever, the deer, aren't they? They work out where you're hunting.
Oh yeah,
what's happening.
all the surrounding properties. There's more deer there than there is in the pines because they're getting shot up in pines. Like they're smart.
Yeah.
Andrew, from a protecting your asset, and that's just amazing to see 30% loss.
Yeah.
So what age do you need to protect the tree if you've got hunters in protecting your assets? Because I was imagining it was just first 2 or 3 years, and it looks like up to 7 years or something. isn't it?
Yeah, so maybe 4 to 5 years.
Yeah.
Once the trees get big enough, and you'll notice a lot of the pine trees, their branches come out, and if they haven't been damaged, it's hard to get into the base of the tree just with the branches there. But the actual bark thickness grows as the tree gets older too. So once the tree gets, an inch of bark on it, it's probably
Safe.
pretty safe. Yeah.
Peter?
Yeah, a couple of things. Because I sort of always thought the particular problem was the seedlings being pulled out of the ground, but you're really focusing on the actual stem when the tree's a little bit older. So that's the issue more than when
I
the
do
seedlings.
see occasional seedlings pulled out of the ground, but it's by far the smaller, in terms of value loss to the plantation.
Yeah.
It's by far the smallest amount.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know around Bright, HVP started doing a bit of fencing of plantations. Do you reckon that's going to become more of a approach? It's expensive, of course.
It is. My take on that would be once the trees are, 5 years old, we'll pull that fence up and shift it to another place where we want to protect trees that are more vulnerable. But
Tony?
Andrew, you did some aerial seeding post-fire. Those areas sort of tended to border Parks area, where Elaine was saying you did some collaborative work on hunting.
Yeah.
Did that tend to draw, because you had more grass and stuff out, did that tend to draw more
we
deer
did
out?
see quite a few deer grazing on our freshly sown aerial seeded grass. It was beautiful, lush grass.
Yeah.
It was doing what we wanted to hold the site together. All the soil was left on the steep hillsides. But that was unfortunate. Side effect was it drew the deer there.
Well, but, to me that's not such a bad thing, because it actually made the deer probably accessible if you had a hunting program
If we had
going
hunters,
as well.
we did have hunters there.
Which means you could actually physically achieve more.
Once the trees are 5 years old, and seeing a bigger whole picture, are your plantations more of a monoculture at that stage? So there's not much growing underneath the trees, just pine needles there.
Once the trees branches start to run into the neighbours, that's a natural process that occurs in all forests, not just plantation, but it shades out the understorms. And you're right, it starts to become a lot more of a monoculture. Yeah.
Thank you. Well, that's great. Fantastic work you're doing. Really interesting research, and interesting to see that AgVic or the department are doing research as well. If we can start getting a bit of a picture of what's going on, can influence some of the things. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you so much.